The void between stars held secrets, and Lieutenant Victoria Nash knew better than most how those secrets could change everything. Her small scout ship, the Starweaver, drifted silently through the darkness of the Carina Nebula, its sensors reaching out into the endless night like curious fingers. Victoria wasn't supposed to be here. The Carina sector was technically neutral space, but everyone knew the Kryvax Empire considered it their territory. Still, something had drawn her to this region. A distress signal unlike anything she'd encountered in her 8 years with the Earth Defense Force. The message repeated in perfectly structured mathematical sequences, yet it carried an unmistakable note of desperation. Victoria had picked it up 3 days ago, and despite regulations requiring her to report it to command, she'd chosen to investigate personally. Something about the signal's complexity suggested its sender had gone to great lengths to ensure only certain recipients would understand it. Running another scan, Lieutenant, announced Myra, her ship's eye companion. The signal source appears to be emanating from Research Station Helios. Current status: critical power failure. Victoria leaned forward in her pilot's seat, studying the holographic display. The station was barely visible against the nebula's swirling gases, a dark spindle shape outlined by emergency lighting. Life signs: 1 confirmed. Species unknown. Biological patterns don't match any known registry. That got Victoria's attention. Unknown species weren't uncommon in the vast expanse of space, but one sophisticated enough to send a mathematically encoded distress signal. That was different. As the Starweaver drew closer, more details became clear. The station's main reactor was dead, and huge sections had been sealed off due to hull breaches. Whatever had happened here hadn't been an accident. The damage patterns suggested weapons fire. Myra, prep the emergency docking protocols, and keep our shields at maximum. I don't want any surprises. The A's response was interrupted by a new transmission, this one a direct communication attempt. The holographic display flickered, and Victoria found herself staring at a face that defied description. Luminous eyes with pupils like spiral galaxies gazed at her from a delicate, almost crystalline features. The being's skin seemed to shift colors like the aurora borealis. I had calculated a 73.4% probability that a human would respond first. The being spoke in perfect English, though its mouth didn't move. Instead, patterns of light danced across its facial structure. I am Tilora, senior researcher of the Nephilim Science Academy, and I believe I have discovered something that could either save or destroy civilization as we know it. Victoria's training kicked in, keeping her voice steady despite her amazement. I'm Lieutenant Victoria Nash of the Earth Defense Force. Are you in immediate danger? The Kryvax will return in approximately 6 hours. They believe I died in their initial attack. Talera's lights pulsed faster. I managed to mask my life signs, but the station's remaining power will fail before then. Lieutenant Nash, I understand you have no reason to trust me, but I cannot allow my research to fall into Kryvax's hands. Will you help me? Victoria studied the alien's face, years of diplomatic training helping her rid the subtle patterns in those lights. Fear, yes, but also determination. And something else. Hope. A warning flashed across her console. Long-range sensors had detected multiple ships entering the sector. The Kryvax were coming back early. Myra, initiate emergency docking procedures. Victoria ordered, her decision made. Tilara, gather whatever data you need. You have 10 minutes. The Nephilim's lights brightened momentarily, their equivalent of a smile, perhaps. Thank you, Lieutenant. I suspected humans might be capable of such swift decision-making. Your species' reputation for quick thinking may be our salvation. As the Starweaver maneuvered toward the dying station, Victoria couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to become entangled in something far bigger than a simple rescue mission. The nebula's gases swirled around her ship like cosmic flames, and somewhere out there, Kryvax warships were closing in. 10 minutes to dock, retrieve a mysterious alien scientist, and escape before the galaxy's most notorious empire arrived. Victoria allowed herself a small smile. Just another day in the life of an Earth Defense Force officer. The Starweaver's docking clamps engaged with a thunderous clang that echoed through the hull. Victoria was already moving, grabbing her emergency kit and atmospheric suit. The station's life support was failing, and she couldn't risk exposure to whatever atmosphere the Nephilim required. Mayare, keep the engines hot, she ordered, securing her helmet. If those Kryvax ships show up early, I want to know about it. Understood, Lieutenant. Current estimate gives us 8 minutes before the station's structural integrity fails completely. The airlock cycled, and Victoria pushed through into the research station. Emergency lights cast everything in a blood-red glow, and the air was thick with floating debris. Her suit's heads-up display showed rapidly declining atmospheric pressure. They really were cutting it close. She found Tilara in the main research lab, the alien's crystalline form moving with unexpected grace as she downloaded data from the station's computers. Up close, the Nephilim was even more striking. Nearly 2 meters tall, with a body that seemed to be made of living crystal and light. Lieutenant Nash, Tilara acknowledged without turning. Your timing is impeccable. The data transfer is at 89%. However, we have a complication. Victoria's heart sank. Of course we do. The station's quantum core is unstable. When it fails, it will create a temporary rupture in spacetime. The Kryvax will be able to track that event. So they'll know you survived, Victoria concluded. Can we stabilize it? Tilara's lights pulsed in what Victoria was beginning to recognize as amusement. No, but we can use it to our advantage. The rupture will create a gravitational wake, dangerous to navigate, but an excellent way to mask our escape trajectory. A distant explosion rocked the station. Victoria steadied herself against a console. Mirai, report. Station's power grid is cascading, Lieutenant. Estimate complete failure in 6 minutes. Also detecting 3 Kryvax vessels entering the sector. Victoria swore under her breath. They're early. Tilara, we need to move. Now. The Nephilim disconnected from the computer. A small crystal device clutched in her shifting hands. Data transfer complete. Lieutenant, I should warn you. My physical form may be unsettling for humans during spaceflight. We Nephilim adapt to our surroundings in ways that can appear disturbing to organic species. As long as you don't damage my ship, you could turn into a singing space squid for all I care. Victoria replied, already heading for the exit. Let's go. They made it halfway back to the airlock before the station's gravity failed completely. Victoria activated her suit's magnetic boots, but Tilara simply allowed herself to float, her crystalline body fragmenting and reforming as she moved through zero gravity with perfect efficiency. The Starweaver's airlock had never seemed so far away. Behind them, the station's structure groaned ominously. Victoria's suit sensors were screaming warnings about radiation spikes and structural failures. Lieutenant, Myra's voice crackled through her comm. Kryvax vessels are launching fighters. They've detected us. Finally reaching the airlock, Victoria sealed it behind them as Tilara reassembled herself inside the ship. The Nephilim's body had taken on a more streamlined form, anchoring itself to the deck plating through crystalline tendrils. The quantum core will breach in approximately 40 seconds, Tilara announced. I suggest we be well away from the station when that happens. Victoria threw herself into the pilot's seat, her fingers flying over the controls. Mayare, disengage docking clamps. Give me everything the engines have got. The Starweaver broke free just as the first Kryvax fighters appeared around the station's far side. They were beautiful ships, Victoria had to admit, sleek, predatory vessels painted in deep crimson and black. They're firing, Miore warned. Victoria yanked the controls, sending the Starweaver into a spiral that would have liquefied an unprotected human. Behind them, energy beams sliced through the space they'd occupied seconds before. Quantum core breach in 5, Tilara counted down, her voice eerily calm. 4, 3, 2. The research station exploded in a flash of impossible colors as space itself twisted and tore. The gravitational shockwave caught them first, threatening to tear the Star Weaver apart. Victoria felt her teeth rattle as she fought to maintain control. "Ride the wake," Tilara called out. "Use the gravitational distortion to slingshot us past their blockade." It was crazy. It was suicide. It was exactly the kind of maneuver that had earned humans their reputation for brilliant recklessness. Victoria grinned behind her helmet and dove straight into the chaos. The Starweaver screamed through space, metal and circuits protesting as reality buckled around them. Through the distorted sensor readings, Victoria caught glimpses of the Kryvax fighters being thrown off course, their more powerful engines actually working against them in the quantum turbulence. When they finally emerged from the wake, the nebula had changed color, their sensors were spinning in confusion, and Victoria was pretty sure she'd seen through time for a brief moment. But they were alive, and more importantly, they were free. Calculating pursuit vectors, Myra announced. The gravitational distortion has delayed the Kryvax fleet by approximately 18 minutes. Sufficient time to reach the quantum slip point, Tilara observed, her form slowly returning to its original configuration. "Lieutenant Nash, you just navigated a quantum wake with an accuracy that should have been mathematically impossible." Victoria started checking systems for damage. "That's humans for you. We have a bad habit of doing impossible things." She paused, looking at her unusual passenger. "Now want to tell me what was worth risking a quantum core breach to protect?" Tilara's lights dimmed slightly. "Lieutenant, what I'm about to tell you will change your understanding of not just this galaxy, but the nature of consciousness itself. The Kryvax didn't attack the station because of what I am. They attacked because of what I discovered." The Starweaver drifted in the shadow of a rogue asteroid, its systems running silent while Victoria listened to Tilara's explanation. The crystalline alien had projected a holographic display showing complex mathematical equations and what appeared to be neural patterns. "Consciousness isn't just an emergent property of complex systems," Tilara explained, her lights pulsing with excitement. "It's a fundamental force of the universe, like gravity or electromagnetism. My research proves it." Victoria frowned, watching strange patterns spiral through the display. "You're saying consciousness is built into reality itself?" "Precisely. And more importantly, it can be quantified, measured, and potentially enhanced." Hilara's form shifted, creating additional facets that caught the light from distant stars. The Kryvax Empire understood enough of my preliminary findings to realize what this could mean. Imagine being able to expand consciousness beyond its natural limits, to link minds across vast distances, to evolve beyond current physical forms. "Lieutenant," Myra interrupted, detecting quantum wake signatures. "The Kryvax fleet is attempting to track our path." Victoria straightened in her chair. "How long until they find us?" "Unknown. Their search pattern is highly efficient. Recommend immediate relocation." Victoria studied the sensor readings, then looked at Tilara. "We need somewhere to go, somewhere safe enough to figure out what to do with your discovery." Tilara's lights dimmed thoughtfully. "There is a place, an ancient research facility built by my people, abandoned centuries ago. Its location has been forgotten by most, but its defenses should still be active." "Should be." Victoria raised an eyebrow. "The facility is located within the Maelstrom, a region of space where normal physics misbehaves." Hilara's form rippled. "The Kryvax avoid it. Most species do." Victoria had heard stories about the Maelstrom. Ships went in, they didn't come out. Or worse, they came out changed. "And you think we can make it through?" "With your piloting skills and my knowledge of the anomalies." "Yes. The facility itself contains technology that could help us understand how to properly use my discovery." Or, Tilara hesitated, her lights flickering. "How to destroy it?" if necessary. The ship's sensors pinged a warning. A Kryvax patrol had entered their sector, sweeping methodically through the asteroid field. Victoria made her decision. Myra, plot a course for the Maelstrom. Tilara, I need everything you know about navigating that region. They slipped away from the asteroid just as the patrol passed, using the natural debris field for cover. But their escape didn't go unnoticed. Energy signatures flared as the Kryvax ships gave chase. Multiple vessels on intercept course, Myra reported, detecting energy buildup in their weapon systems. Victoria's hands flew over the controls, pushing the Starweaver through gaps in the asteroid field that seemed impossibly small. Behind them, Kryvax energy weapons turned rocks into plasma, creating an ever-expanding cloud of superheated gas. The Maelstrom's outer boundary is ahead, Tilara announced, her crystalline form anchoring itself more firmly to the deck. Lieutenant, you should know. Normal space ends in approximately 30 seconds. As if on cue, the view through the forward screens began to distort. Stars stretched and twisted, their light bending in ways that made Victoria's eyes hurt. The ship's sensors started reporting impossible readings. I'm detecting spatial anomalies, Myra warned. Standard navigation systems are becoming unreliable. Tilara moved closer to the helm, her body emanating patterns of light that seemed to match the chaos ahead. Follow the resonance patterns. The Maelstrom responds to consciousness itself. That's why automated ships never survive it. You need to feel your way through. Feel my way through space itself. Victoria shook her head. That's not exactly covered in Earth Defense Force training. The first wave hit them like a physical force. Reality buckled, and for a moment, Victoria saw multiple versions of her own hands on the controls. The pursuing Kryvax ships fired again, but their weapons behaved strangely in the Maelstrom's influence. Energy beams curved and split, creating beautiful but lethal patterns in space. Trust your instincts, Tilara urged. Your consciousness is already part of the universal field. Let it expand, let it guide you. Victoria took a deep breath and tried something she'd never done before. She stopped thinking like a pilot and started thinking like the ship itself. The Maelstrom's currents suddenly became visible to her, not through any sensor but through a kind of intuition she couldn't explain. The Starweaver danced through impossible space, riding waves of warped reality, while the Kryvax ships struggled behind them. One by one, their pursuers turned back, unwilling to risk their ships in the Maelstrom's depths. Remarkable, Tilara observed. You're interpreting the quantum consciousness field instinctively. Perhaps this is why humans have such a unique approach to impossible situations. Victoria was about to respond when she saw it. A structure floating in the heart of the Maelstrom, its architecture defying Euclidean geometry. The ancient Nephilim facility seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, its surfaces shifting and changing even as she watched. That's your research facility, she asked, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. The last great achievement of my people's golden age, Tilara confirmed, built to study the fundamental nature of reality itself. Her lights pulsed with what might have been nostalgia. Now it will help us understand whether my discovery is a gateway to evolution or a doorway to chaos. As they approached the impossible structure, Victoria couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, not by the facility's defenses, but by the Maelstrom itself. Around them, space continued to twist and dance, as if reality itself was curious about what would happen next. The ancient Nephilim facility defied conventional docking procedures. Instead, it seemed to reach out to the Starweaver, drawing them in with tendrils of pure energy that crossed multiple dimensions. Victoria felt a strange sensation, as if her consciousness was being gently examined. The facility's defense systems are recognizing us, Tilara explained, her crystalline form resonating with the energy field. It's reading our quantum signatures, our consciousness patterns. As they passed through the outer barriers, Victoria saw impossible geometries unfold around them. Corridors existed in superposition, simultaneously stretching for kilometers and condensed into mere meters. The facility was less a physical structure and more a manifestation of pure thought given form. "My RA, can you maintain connection here?" Victoria asked, concerned about losing contact with her ship's eye. "Affirmative, Lieutenant. Though my processes are expanding. This environment operates on principles that enhance computational consciousness." Hilara's lights pulsed with approval. "Your AI is experiencing the consciousness field directly. Fascinating. She may develop in unexpected ways here." They emerged into what Hilara called the Nexus, a vast chamber that seemed to contain multiple versions of itself, all overlapping. At its center floated a device that hurt Victoria's eyes to look at, a crystalline structure similar to Hilara's form, but infinitely more complex. "The Quantum Consciousness Core," Hilara announced. "The most advanced technology my people ever created. With this, we can properly analyze my research data and understand its full implications." Victoria watched as Hilara interfaced with the core, her form partially merging with it. Data streams flowed between them in patterns that reminded her of neural networks, but far more complex. "Lieutenant," Myra's voice had changed slightly, gaining new harmonics. "Multiple quantum wake signatures detected. The Kryvacs have found a way to navigate the maelstrom." "How?" Victoria demanded. "They were afraid to enter before." Hilara's lights flickered with concern. "They're using my preliminary research data. Crude implementation, but effective enough. They're forcing their way through using artificial consciousness enhancement." The facility's sensors showed multiple Kryvax warships pushing through the maelstrom's currents, their hulls surrounded by strange energy fields that seemed to bend reality around them. But something was wrong. The ship's movements were erratic, aggressive. "The consciousness enhancement is affecting their crews," Hilara observed grimly. "Without proper understanding, it's driving them into a state of heightened aggression and paranoia." "This is exactly what I feared might happen." The Quantum Consciousness Core suddenly pulsed with intense light, and Victoria felt her mind expand. For a brief moment, she could see everything. The facility, the approaching Kryvacs, the very fabric of space-time itself. She understood what Hilara's research truly meant. "It's not just about enhancing consciousness," she gasped. "It's about evolution itself. The next step in universal development." "Yes," Hilara confirmed, "but forced evolution, without proper preparation, leads to chaos. The Kryvax crew are experiencing that chaos now. Their minds are expanding faster than they can handle." Through the facility's sensors, they watched as the Kryvax ships began firing on each other, their crews lost in consciousness-enhanced madness. The maelstrom itself seemed to react, its currents becoming more violent. "We have to stop this," Victoria decided. "There has to be a way to contain the knowledge until we're ready for it." Hilara's form shifted thoughtfully. "There might be. The facility's core was designed to study consciousness itself. Perhaps we could use it to create a quantum lock, a seal that can only be broken when collective consciousness reaches the right level of development naturally." "Lieutenant," Myra interrupted, "the Kryvax flagship has broken through. Their weapons are powered by corrupted consciousness energy. Impact in 3 minutes." The flagship emerged from the maelstrom like a wounded predator, its hull warped by reality distortions, and its energy signatures pulsing with chaotic patterns. Victoria could almost feel the madness of its crew radiating through space. "Hilara, how long do you need to create this quantum lock?" "Minutes, at most. But I'll need to interface completely with the core. I'll be vulnerable." Victoria checked the Starweaver's weapons systems. Not that conventional weapons would mean much in this environment. "Myra, and I will protect you. Do it." As Hilara merged more deeply with the quantum consciousness core, Victoria felt reality itself holding its breath. The next few minutes would determine not just their fate, but potentially the course of consciousness evolution throughout the galaxy. The Kryvax flagship opened fire, its weapons enhanced by the twisted consciousness energy of its maddened crew. Victoria prepared to face it, knowing that this battle would be fought not just with weapons, but with the power of mind and will itself. The Kryvax flagship's consciousness-enhanced weapons tore through the outer layers of reality, creating rifts in space-time itself. Victoria watched through the facility's multidimensional sensors as Tilera worked with the quantum consciousness core, their merged forms pulsing with increasingly complex patterns of light and energy. Myra, Victoria called out, "Can you interface with the facility's defense systems?" "Already done, Lieutenant. Though these systems operate on principles I'm still learning to comprehend. The consciousness field is extraordinary." The facility responded to Myra's touch, ancient defense mechanisms awakening. Reality barriers formed around them, each one existing in multiple states simultaneously. But the Kryvax weapons, powered by the corrupted consciousness energy of their maddened crew, began to tear through these barriers. Their weapons shouldn't be this powerful. Tilera's voice emerged from the core, now carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate with space itself. They're not just using the enhanced consciousness, they're burning through it, consuming their own minds to power their attacks. Victoria watched in horror as the flagship's hull began to crystallize, taking on properties similar to Tilera's natural form. The ship was evolving, but in a twisted, uncontrolled way. Its crew's collective consciousness was reshaping reality around them, driven by fear and rage. "Lieutenant," Myra's voice had taken on new depths of understanding. "I believe I can see a pattern in their attacks. The consciousness field, it responds to intention, to will. Their madness makes them strong, but it also makes them blind to the deeper currents." An idea formed in Victoria's mind. "Tilera, you said consciousness is a fundamental force, like gravity. Can we use that? Create a kind of consciousness gravity well." Tilera's lights pulsed with revelation. "Yes, yes, we could create a focal point, drawing in and stabilizing the chaotic energy. But it would require a consciousness anchor, someone with enough natural stability to withstand the pressure." Another blast from the flagship rocked the facility. Through the quantum sensors, Victoria could see the crew's minds burning brighter and faster, consuming themselves in their desperate push for power. "I'll do it," Victoria decided. "Myra, take control of the Starweaver. If this goes wrong, get Tilera and her research to safety." Before anyone could object, Victoria stepped into the consciousness field surrounding the core. The universe exploded in her mind, infinite possibilities, countless realities, all interconnected by the fundamental force of awareness itself. She felt Tilera's presence guiding her, helping her maintain her sense of self in the overwhelming flood of consciousness. "Focus on who you are," Tilera's voice echoed through multiple dimensions. "Your consciousness, your patterns, your way of seeing reality. Make it a beacon." Victoria thought of Earth, of the endless human drive to explore and understand. She thought of her years in space, of the wonder she felt every time she saw new stars. She took all of it, her identity, her memories, her very human way of processing reality, and turned it into an anchor point in the consciousness field. The effect was immediate. The chaotic energy being expelled by the Kryvax flagship began to curve toward her, drawn by the stability of her consciousness pattern. Their weapons, powered by burning minds, found their energy redirected and transformed. "It's working," Myra observed. "The chaotic consciousness energy is being filtered through Lieutenant Nash's neural pattern. The madness is being normalized." Through the quantum sensors, Victoria watched as the crystallization of the flagship began to reverse. The crew's enhanced consciousness was being drawn into her gravity well, passing through her human perspective like light through a prism, emerging ordered and stable. Tilera's work with the core reached its culmination. The quantum lock began to form, not a simple seal, but a complex pattern in the consciousness field itself. Victoria understood now. The lock wasn't just hiding knowledge. It was creating a path a natural progression that would allow species to evolve their consciousness gradually, safely. The Kryvak's flagship's attacks weakened, then ceased. Its crew, no longer burning with enhanced consciousness, fell into a deep sleep. The ship drifted in the maelstrom's currents, its hull returning to normal. Victoria stepped back from the core, her mind still ringing with echoes of infinite awareness. Solaris separated from the core as well, her crystalline form glowing with new patterns. "The quantum lock is complete," Tilara announced. "The knowledge is safe, waiting for the day when consciousness evolves enough to handle it naturally. And thanks to your human perspective, we discovered something unexpected, a way to guide that evolution safely." "Lieutenant," Mayuri reported, "the remaining Kryvak ships are retreating. Their consciousness enhancement appears to have been neutralized." Victoria smiled tiredly. "Good. I've had enough of impossible things for one day." On the contrary, Tulara's lights danced with what could only be described as joy. "You've proven that the impossible simply requires a new way of seeing reality. Your human consciousness pattern, it provides a natural framework for processing enhanced awareness. Perhaps this is why your species adapts so quickly, why you face the unknown with such unique perspective." As they prepared to leave the ancient facility, Victoria looked back at the quantum consciousness core. It pulsed gently now, its endless knowledge safely locked away, waiting for the day when all species would be ready to take their next evolutionary step. Not through force or artificial enhancement, but through natural growth and understanding. "You know," Victoria said, "for all our advanced technology and evolutionary potential, sometimes the most important consciousness is just being aware of what we're not ready for yet." Tulara's form shifted in agreement. "Indeed. And knowing when to wait, to learn, to grow naturally. That may be the highest form of consciousness of all." The Starweaver carried them out of the maelstrom, reality gradually returning to normal around them. But Victoria knew the universe would never look quite the same to her again. Somewhere in the quantum consciousness field, infinite possibilities waited to be discovered, not through force, but through the natural evolution of mind and spirit.